Hello and welcome to the European beef hybrid event. In this video, we are going to present an overview on the European beef sector and its relationship with this market. In this first block, we are going to introduce our sector, our main data, characteristics, both on the European level and the Spanish level. After that, we are going to describe how the European beef sector is, or virtues. And to finish, we are going to draw the current relationships between the European Union and this market. These are the three main topics we are going to discuss along this video. Let's start by explaining who are we. Well, the European beef sector is positioned as the fourth largest producer in the world, and it's only surpassed by the USA, Brazil and China. The European beef industry represents the 12% of the global supply, with an annual production up to 6,800,000 tons. Within this beef production, it should be noted that 80% of the beef is what we consider beef, while the 15% remaining is what we consider veal. Likewise, it should be noted that there is a population of bovine animals of more than 76 million and 21 million cows. Within this European production, France is positioned as the main producer, accounting for the 20%. And it's followed by Germany with a 14% and Italy with a 12%. After these three, we find Spain, which is the fourth largest producer from the European Union and accounts for an 11%. With this, it should be noted that it's a fairly stabilized production figure and it only has the typical variation in a sector such as livestock. And to sum up, the European beef sector can be summarized in 4 points. It's the third most important livestock sector. It has an economic impact of 28 billion euros. It accounts for 6.8% of the agri-food production and 17.7% of the livestock sector. And there are around 10.5 million producing farms. The Spanish beef sector, represented by ProVacuno, that represents through their associations the whole value chain, from the beef producers up to the processors. That means that under this institution umbrella, there are represented more than 130,000 farms, which means that more than 230 slaughterhouses and 140 cutting plants. In terms of production, every year Spain produces more than 600,000 tons and exports more than 200,000 tons. Going further on this first introduction, we see that the Spanish beef sector represents the 6% out of the total agricultural production of the country. Indeed, it's the third most important sector out of the livestock in the country, and in economic terms, it represents 15.3%. In an international context, if there is something that really stands out about the Spanish beef sector, it's the excellent health conditions, which is one of the main keys to make business. As an example of this, we can highlight the certification received by the European Union, assessing that it's a low-risk country in terms of bovine spongiform encephalopathy. This has helped us to negotiate with new countries, new markets, and to promote our products. This guarantees that our plants are perfectly qualified following the European production model, and we both develop international teams. Thanks to that, we managed to achieve high safety in our production, differentiation from other competitors. We managed to implement technological developments in our procedures. We invest more in research, development and innovation, and we support the international promotion. Now let's move on to the second block, our virtues. In this sense, what really makes our beef different from the rest? Let's find it out in the following aspects. First of it, our system follows the European production model. There are different kinds of meat depending on the age of the animals. The animals feeding is based on grain. Fourth is that we do really have exhaustive controls in the farms and the whole industry. And all of this makes for the European beef to be a really exclusive product. Regarding the European production model, this is composed by the following aspects. The first of it, the animal welfare and the respect for the environment. The animal feeding control and traceability during the whole production process. And then on the third part, it's the strict controls we follow in the industrial chain. Then we find that depending on the age of slaughter of the animals, we can obtain different types of meat. First of it, it's calf meat, being the youngest animal, and it has a tender, low fat and easy to digest meat. Then we found the yearling meat, whose meat is pink, tender, juicy and really easy to digest. At last we find the adult bovines, whose meat is red and much more tasty. In regards to the animal feeding, and what really differentiates our products from the competition, are the beef is no hormones and no antibiotics. Its feed is only based in grain. This adds a high nutritional value to our products. They are eco-friendly and we get tender meats with less fat content and with much more delicate flavor. In short, we want to have healthy animals, so that these control farms are based on identifying animals individually, carrying out health controls at each stage of their life cycle to guarantee that the animal's welfare, as a sign of identity of our production system. Regarding our hygiene and safety control implemented, we boast the highest technology, taking care of the traceability and making sure that hygiene control during the whole process of our production system. As a result, we obtain high quality meat, marked by its tenderness, juiciness and its low fat content. Having learned more about what makes our beef special, we continue analyzing the trade relations between the European Union and Japan. But who are the main beef suppliers of Japan? The United States and Australia control the Japanese beef market, gathering between the two of them up to 82% of the market share. Within this, it's observed that the quantity of beef coming from the United States is growing, being its market share of 47% in the last year. From the rest of suppliers, we can highlight the cases of Canada and New Zealand, with a 7 and 5% market share respectively. The European Union, as a group, would be positioned as the 6th beef supplier of Japan, being Poland and Ireland the main suppliers from a European origin. And the most demanded products by the Japanese market are the fresh meats, representing almost 45% of the total, followed by the frozen meat with 31% and the edible offals with 23%. Generally speaking, Japan is the 20th destination of the European beef exports, and considering only the third countries, it would reach the 6th position. So there we are seeing that the European exports to Japan are close to 18.1 million tons, according to the data gathered in 2021. This figure has increased by 79% in the last year, after growing even more in 2020 with 43%, despite the COVID effects. In economic terms, the figures stand out even more, since the current figure of almost 98 million has increased by 127% in the last year. Among the main European beef suppliers, we find Poland and Ireland dominating these exports, accounting for 47% and 28% respectively. On third and fourth position, we find Spain and Italy, with somewhat lower shares that are 7 and 5% respectively. Looking at the most exported beef categories, we see that the frozen meat is the main category exported by the European Union to Japan and accounts for 57%. After this, we can find the edible offals, which account for 41%. To finish, let's quickly review the Spanish beef exports to the Japanese market. This export falls within a framework of a bilateral relation characterized by the following points. First, the total exports accounts for close to 2.9 thousand million euros. Also, the exports are mainly focused on the industrial and technological products, accounting for 53%, and followed by the food and beverage export, which account for 35%. Also, it's worth noting that the Japanese market opened for the Spanish beef exports in 2020. We draw that 61% of the Spanish export are based on edible offals, while the rest is mainly on frozen meat, accounting at 39%. Thank you so much for having followed this video, and please keep enjoying this wonderful event with the European beef.